Well, would you like to go into AEW Dynamite from this past Wednesday night, April the 9th, in the charm city of Baltimore? They've lost their charm. I think they'll have pitchforks if they do another one of these. Brian, I keep saying nobody will do anything different. It's the same old stuff week after week. Nobody will do something different, change things up a little bit, get my attention. And they took me to their word and they did something different. And I'm going to have to say that the first 35 minutes of this wrestling program was without doubt and fear of contradiction the worst consecutive 35 minutes of a wrestling show I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they gave it all to us here. They had a nonsensical, slow interview to start, followed by a boring match, followed by a fucking horrible multi-part interview, followed by another fucking match where I said, well, the only thing left to do is carry somebody out, and son of a bitch, they got there. And they hurt somebody. And they exposed the business while they were hurting the guy. And that was in 35 minutes. I'm astonished. I didn't know it was possible.
To be fair, they had a big finale with the puking in the ring.
Well, yeah. I mean, the puking that was the icing on the cake. The puking in the ring. But I'm talking about just this because they did break the first 35 up for just a second, because then I believe, no, wait a minute. They didn't. It was still rotten, but it wasn't as rotten as that.
It was rotten in kind of the Jade Cargill debut way for me. I got a kick out of it for all the wrong reasons, because I got to a point where I really believed, you know what? Tony's going to go commercial free and nothing's going to ever end. It's just going to go right into the next thing, and your head's going to spin like, wait, what's happening now? And then it just goes into the next thing. Maybe he is a great booker, but he didn't even do that. He didn't even do that. The silliness, for the most part, ended at a certain point.
Well, they opened up with the pre-tape promo in the back with the cinematic camera effect where one's in the front and one's to the side of Dick the Boozer and the Four Horsemen, where, again, he's wonderfully articulate if the idea of using words is to just string them together. But it's talking in circles. It's more, nobody still knows what he's talking about or what the fuck he wants or is trying to do. It's all riddles and nonsense. And he does that. And then they play the music, and here he comes with Marina Shafir through the arena. And I swear to God, to open the show, his opponent is Shapoopy. And the first
this was a big, we talked about Rocca versus Ricky Starr the other day. That was a dream match of the century at one point for some fans. This match here, for this century, the man whose brain was removed versus the man with no brain. That's a big deal. Why isn't Dave making a big deal about that? That should be hyped up.
The Shapoopy's gimmick is he's the wrestler because he has absolutely no charisma or personality whatsoever. So they do the silly phone thing with him, the phone translator, and he's somehow not only a wrestler, but because he's the wrestler fellow, he gets to just not sell when people just hit him. But he doesn't react either, register, as the boys used to say. You don't have to sell something, but you have to register it to show that it was a legitimate blow, but they don't understand these nuances. But they think they're both shooters. And I don't know whether Shapoopy might be a goddamn another Kawada. Who knows? But we know that the Boozer gets stretched at by the Home Depot clerk in the amateur jiu-jitsu tournaments in Newport on weekends. But for the first almost 3 minutes, they worked either amateur wrestling or mixed in with the amateur jiu-jitsu. Worked is the description. It was almost stationary. It was a slow pace. There was no aggression. they're going through the moves of these things, but I've watched legitimate world-class wrestlers do this shit. And before everybody's go, oh, fuck you, Cornette, and it's all fake. I'm talking about, I was there when Kurt Angle broke into business. We've had him in fucking training, and Shelton Benjamin and Brock Lesnar for that matter, and a few more NCAA champions, Sylvester Turkay. I know what it looks like when they at a top level want to try to aggressively have a friendly little shoot. This wasn't it. Have I made my point, Brian?
I believe so.
But Moxley thinks that he's so over that he can show this MMA expertise and people are going to go, wow. And it's just, so they do 3 minutes of this, and then Moxley pie-faced him and Shapoopy slapped him. So then they traded the chops where Shapoopy doesn't even react. He stands there and lets Moxley chop him, and then stood there and let Moxley kick him in the head 4 times. Did the big boot, just boom, Bruiser Brody, boom. Do it again. And then as soon as they did that, he got the abdominal stretch on Moxley. I said, what the, they're amateur wrestling. They're trading chops. They're kicking each other in the head. Then they're going to an abdominal stretch. And then Moxley just started beating him up. And then Moxley gave him a pile driver, and he stood right up and just kicked Moxley in the face. And even Tony Schiavone said, well, I've never seen a guy get pile driven and just stand right up before.
Well, maybe they put a special plate in his head when they removed his brain. It makes sense.
That's what they need to start marketing now, is he's got the goddamn brain plate. And then
maybe they could just call him that, the brain plate, Shibata.
Shibata. But point being, they did this, and then within 5 minutes, I guess, out of nowhere, Shibata gets the sleeper, and Moxley reaches up and rakes his eyes and reversed the sleeper and took him down and choked him, and the referee rang the bell. And it was it never got going with anything, but there was no pro wrestling in it. There was some going through the motions MMA at half speed, or amateur wrestling, or strong style stuff. But it was boring as fuck. Death Jitsu. It was death ratings. But so that was that. But then the music plays. And out representing the Lollipop Guild from the land of Lilliput comes the Buckaroos, wearing more weird shit. I don't know what the fuck's happening here. Old Nicky looked like he was the maitre d' at a swingers club. And basically, when they come out, Moxley and Marina leave, and the Buckaroos get on the microphone and they start to, and the announcer is saying, oh, the EVPs. And they're doing their promo, whereas EVPs of the, Brian, they've been gone 6 months now, right?
At least, maybe more than that.
Okay. They got on the what are they on now? Not Netflix with the big boys. They're on Max. And they're supposed to have gotten a new audience.
Yeah, allegedly.
But even last time when they were back, they were just the EVPs, and they had dropped Tony Khan on his head and etc. But shouldn't it, just in case there are any new viewers, shouldn't somebody be trying to explain why these two turd blossoms are executive vice presidents of this promotion? Or does that just make the whole thing look more hogwash and made up and bullshit? If anybody had just started watching this thing a few months ago, who are these fucking guys? What the fuck? And why in the world would they, of all people, be vice presidents? These cheesy, snide-faced little whippets. So, and when they tried to take over AEW and they hurt Tony Khan and they were wanted to assert their positions as EVPs. But then when Moxley started trying to do the same thing, the last time we saw them, they were burning their memos and fucking running off in fear. And now they come back and help him. So naturally, what they are addressing is everybody wants to know why. Yeah, because it don't make any fucking sense. And they did it for Adam Page. They screwed Swerve for Adam Page. They did it for him, his friend. And of course, at that point, the fans started chanting Swerve's house because at least that's fun for them. And I'm just thinking they're dressed in these ludicrous outfits. They look like children. They can't fucking talk. And then they consider what they did for Moxley a peace offering. They want to see the locker room rise to the occasion and change the world just like they did. Then how's the locker room rising to the occasion, but when you're always trying to pour bleach down their throat or whatever the fuck Moxley's doing? And to rise to the occasion, doesn't that mean they're asking for somebody to beat the shit out of them?
Yeah, what occasion?
The occasion is the same one as Moxley. To rise to the occasion, somebody needs to beat the shit out of you. That's what you want to see. And that will change the world. It doesn't. It's goddamn, it's gibberish. And Maddie's delivery is so stagey. Because he'll watch this interview back when they got the handheld camera on him. He memorizes shit. He makes a point, and then he looks away because it's a nervous tick of people who are thinking of the next line. And then he'll snap back to the camera to deliver it. And he doesn't use contractions. What we could not do rather than what we couldn't do. He doesn't speak normally because he's reciting this. But Moxley did what they couldn't do, win the world heavyweight title. No, because they're fucking tag team dipshits. So imagine how great it could be if Death Riders and the Buckaroos joined forces. So come on out and let's talk business. And I'm thinking, oh, good Lord, but Kenny's music plays. Here comes Kenny. I said, it's a bad acting Hall of Fame. Here comes Kenny now in his hoodie and gym shorts. And he's in the aisleway and, of course, breathily says, you know, the last time that we met, you pushed me off the stretcher, taking me on a ride to the hospital. But fortunately, he then established, Brian, that he forgave them. He actually said it twice in the course of this speech. I came back for my legacy and the safety of the company, not for revenge.
As soon as he said the safety of the company, I was like, where's he going to go with this? Because the only thing to say would be, you guys are killing the company, which has been something said by even some of the talent going back.
But he didn't say that either. He just said the safety of the company and let that dangle. Like they were in danger unless I was here to part the sea. But they shot an angle where they turned on their best buddy and beat him up in the stomach where he had the diverticulitis, and the baby face comes back and forgives the heels. Has that ever been done before? No, we're good. We're good, guys. It's okay. I'm worried about my legacy and the safety of the company since they're all crippling each other. Maybe that's what he meant. But has that ever happened? They shot a turn angle and then before they even fought the fucking guys, and no, it's okay. I forgive you.
No, they're breaking new ground in AEW. That Tony Khan, quite the booker.
So then Kenny decided that he is a stand-up comic. And he tried to do a routine. And I don't know, Brian, you've been in locker rooms and in the presence of, over the course of your life, a various amount of the pro wrestlers. And would you say that almost everyone that you've ever met could tell jokes or stories or captivate a room with a speech in a more entertaining fashion than Kenny can?
The delivery of material is not necessarily his greatest skill.
No, not nor them coming up with the material because you know this was his. What would the fans have done online if Vince McMahon had made Roman Reigns say Dookie instead of suffer and succotash?
Well, actually, a lot of people know the name or know the word Dookie from No Holds Barred, where for no good reason, Hulk Hogan lifted up a limo driver who was scared of getting beat up. And he said, "What's that smell?" And the guy said, "Dookie." That was written by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, but I don't know that any pro wrestler has actually voluntarily used it in a fucking promo since then.
Never, no.
But Kenny goes on a stand up routine and he tells a story of a friend he had who he played video games with, who had two little shih tzus that used to shit all over the floor. But he said, Dookie. And he said, as more Dookie kept collecting on the floor, he had to finally say, hey, dude, come over and play games at my house. And that's what the Bucks are like without Kenny. What the? That is not a cogent simile. Number one, why do you want the guy who obviously puts up with just accumulating dog shit in his own home to come over to your house just to play video games? Fuck him. Let him keep his filth in his own house. Don't visit him. Secondly, it wasn't the most stunning fucking true life weave into an angle that we have heard in the shoot promo age. And the people are sitting there going, what the fuck? Then they started chanting lightly, Dookie, Dookie. So then the breathy sing-song delivery of the stand-up he was trying to blister the Bucks, but he had no material, and the delivery was, because he doesn't know, and the people are like, what the fuck? And then he just said, so let's cut out the middleman. I'll just come in the ring and we'll fight. And he starts to get in the ring. Am I lying when I say he said that? Just like that.
Oh, he said that. The fans they actually had a little bit of a pop. They were hoping it would be a fight.
Well, they were hoping that was the end of the fucking promo. And then as he's getting in the ring, they play Okada's music. And here comes Okada to the ring. Brian,
this was the best part.
He looked like he was wearing an ill-fitting game warden suit. It looked like he had the giant pockets in the khaki color that they used to hold the bear repellent or whatever the fuck. And
was it the right size? Was it?
No, it was the right size for somebody, but not him.
That was the least intimidating walk-in, whatever, a surprise appearance by a heel I've ever seen because of the outfit.
And it was hanging off his stoop shoulders, but he wasn't moving his arms, was he? I seem to recall him just clump, clump, like the girl on Seinfeld. But he looked, again, like some kind of county game warden about to give you a ticket for fishing without a license, coming down in this, somebody... Do you think where they were in Baltimore, somebody took him to some discount store and ribbed him? And said, oh, this is the style? Where would you find something like that?
I'm starting to think Okada just gets the game. And he said, I'm going to get this guy to pay me all this money. And each week I'm going to show less effort and see at what point they say something. And then this week he just showed up. I've never seen a less intimidating look on a heel ever. It was like, here's my neighbor, Wilson. Like just this fucking look. Like, what is he wearing? So yeah, that was.
You wait till my brother gets off of work. How big a boy is he? So he comes out, but before that they can assault, attack, perpetrate, or penetrate Kenny, Swerve's music plays. And as they're watching for Smurf,
That's Papa Smurf to you.
I sound like Arthur Treacher, and now here's Mervin. As they were watching for Swerve from the front, coming out of the entryway, well, old Swerve swerved him, and he came in from behind with a chair, and the heels turned around and said, oh my God, and they just scared, and they bailed out with no contact, and they left the baby faces standing in the ring, and the fans chanting Swerve's house. So then Kenny, he's smiling, and he leaves the ring and takes bows on the way out down the short aisleway. He's actually giving them the parade wave and taking the obligatory bow, but he has left the ring to Swerve so that Swerve can now orate. So have we kept up with this, Brian? So we had the fucking plumber and his clown show, and they beat Shapoopy, and then the other ones came out, the Buckaroos, but they got run off by, now who ran them off? Hold
Kenny.
on here. They Kenny, well, he didn't run them off. Swerve ran them off. Kenny was out there.
Oh, well, Kenny was going to run them off, but Okada came out. That's right.
Okada came out, and Swerve came out. Well, now Swerve's out there talking. And the first thing he said was, it's buck hunting season. And I swear to God, I was like, my God, this is a Looney Tune. Buck season, Moxley season, buck season, Moxley season. And as soon as Swerve starts talking, I know that you might not believe this. You might think I'm making this up. Pac attacks Swerve from behind. And Nana is in the ring. Did you notice this? And again, I wish, I love Nana. I knew him in Ring of Honor. He's a nice guy. And I wish if he hadn't been listening to the show, and I understand people got lives, things to do, but somebody play him this part, because I've been talking about how they continue to bury him. He's in a very awkward position as a babyface manager, but the people want to like him. And the things they do where they bury him, where he has to just watch, even though he's a grown man. And he just watches, or he runs off or whatever, makes him look like a pussy. But in this case, this was so avoidable because Nana is standing in the ring watching Swerve do the promo, and on camera, you see Nana sees Pac coming and gets the oh shit face and doesn't warn Swerve, doesn't point and say, look behind you, doesn't try to run toward the impending attack. He shits himself and facially and jumps out of the ropes, out of the ring on the floor, and leaves his friend to get attacked from behind. He's not even going, hey, waving his arms, watch out. He just jumps out. That could have been avoided. He knows Pac is coming. And he ought to know if they bother to even talk through this, much less walk through this. He ought to know what direction he's coming from. Just be looking somewhere else while your man is talking and you're inciting the fans to chant or whatever you're doing. And again, you want to neutralize Swerve first. So yes, Pac should blister Swerve, and then Nana should turn around. And Pac should punch Nana in the face, and he can take a bump out on the floor. And then all is right with the world. But instead, Nana comes off as a guy that will bail on a friend at the first sign of fucking trouble in a heartbeat. And why do you want to like him? So then Pac starts standing on Swerve's face, and the referee rolls into the ring. And the announcers say, well, this match was scheduled and advertised. My God, we'll be right back after this. And that's when they take the break. So one would think, Brian, that when we come back on the other side of the break, there's a helicopter going over my house now, part of the rescue fucking operation. Do you hear that, Brian?
I don't.
Well, I do, and it's very loud and distracting. You would think that when they come back from the break, they'd be in the midst of a pitched battle, one would think, right? Because he's already been attacked, and
Of course.
unless they're throwing this whole thing out and this match ain't going to take place, they're pulling hair and gouging eyes and all kinds of stuff. They come back from the break. Pac is standing in the ring. Swerve is sitting in the corner with a pissed off look on his face. The announcers say that Pac punished Swerve Strickland throughout the entire break. And now the referee says, okay, and rings the bell. And Swerve jumps up and levels Pac with one fucking boot. So let me understand the logic of this. Yes, their match was advertised. Okay. And while Swerve's in the ring, Pac jumps on him. Okay. The referee comes in the ring. Okay. Now, one would think that at this point, one of only a couple things could happen is, number one, the referee could say, ring the bell and start the match. Or number two, the heel could just continue kicking the snot out of the babyface till the referee said, fuck it, we're calling this off because he won't stop. Or, well, that's about one of the two things, but why would the referee allow the heel to beat the shit out of this guy for the entire commercial break? Why then would he stop him right when it comes back on TV where it might be exciting? And why then, after these let the heel kick the shit out of the baby face for the past 3 minutes, would he then ring the bell to start the match? And then if the baby face has had the shit kicked out of him for the last 3 minutes, why did he get up and proceed to kick the shit out of the heel that attacked him to begin with? And one more question, is this what LSD looks like?
No.
Well, you're going to answer the other stuff I asked first?
Well, I thought we were just going to focus on the psychedelics, and maybe mushrooms would be more your thing if I was really thinking about it. I can't explain this. I explain the logic of AEW's referees and what they do. I can't do that.
How do you even go over this in the fucking back and not think, wait a minute, what are we saying? So then Swerve hit Pac with 14 punches, I counted, and a kick. Most of them looked phony, and Pac didn't bump for anything. He just slumped in the corner. But Swerve is like rib shots that, like, in the vicinity of, I mean, what is going on with everybody's quality control? And then they go to the floor, and Swerve beats him up all over ringside. And then they get back in the ring, and it's kind of slow for a minute, and then Pac tries a running Hurricane Rana. But when he gets his legs around Swerve, Swerve catches him and stops it and picks him up. And the idea of it was supposed to be he was going to give him a buckle bomb in the corner. And then from there, we'll never know. Because when Swerve caught him, Pac is a stout-looking young fellow. He's short, but he's stocky, and Swerve is not exactly Ken Patera in the Olympic weightlifting team. So he tries to pick him up to buckle bomb him, but he gives him a sloppy buckle bomb. And if anybody wants to go back and look at this, and I remember a talk I had 10 years ago, I saw Sting at a fan fest. And that when Seth Rollins had given him the buckle bomb, that's when he took, what was it, fucking 6 years off wrestling. But in a perfect world, you're supposed to be buckle bombed into the turnbuckle. At least this is how the originators did it, where the top rope comes underneath your armpits and the middle of your shoulders hits the top turnbuckle. And even that, when it was done properly, to Sting, that's what he told me. He said as soon as he hit that top buckle, he felt something in his neck and shit went numb. And he was like, oh, fuck. Because when you're shot across the turnbuckle from corner to corner in the ring, you're hitting at a flat rate. And that's the deal. The guys that took the best turnbuckles were the ones that hit it the flattest. You could get momentum and turn and hit flat and move the ring across the floor. And it at the same time hitting flat didn't put any more pressure than was necessary on any one part of your body, and it didn't snap your neck like if all of your momentum is concentrated in hitting with your shoulders and your shoulder blades in the back of your neck only. So what this knucklehead did, he didn't have him. And instead of saying, well, no, maybe I ought to just power bomb him anyway, because it's not like the guy was going to go, oh my God, I'll fuck this up by being power bombed in the ring. He still got to buckle bomb him. He throws him sideways, and he was out too far. Swerve was out too far from the buckle. And he didn't throw him flat. He threw him sideways so that you get these in my head, the sides, the left side and or shoulder area of Pac hit the top rope a ways out from the buckle where it looked like that then whipsawed Pac around to where the rest of his head kind of hit maybe under the top buckle, but it spun his body around with enough centrifugal force that when he landed sideways, his foot was under him, right ankle, and that he landed right on it. And I mean, I'm again willing to be corrected, but when he landed from that buckle bomb, I got a clue when he started screaming in fucking pain and grabbing his ankle and never regained his proper footing after that, that may have been the incident that did it. And that's what happened. He didn't go flat in with both feet under him. Swerve was too far out, and he threw him sideways, and he hit the top rope and whipsawed down. And he could have very well have broken his ankle because that much speed from the spin combined with not being able to control where you were going or get your feet under you, you can't prepare. But then they fucked the whole goddamn business up, Brian. Well, you want to go into this before we talk about how then they shit all over the business and made it look like a complete idiocy.
How, by having a doctor check on him in the middle of the match?
Well, this whole thing that we're going to go through that just made no sense. But I mean, otherwise, this show is snake bit. It's a bad match followed by bad promo, followed by people coming out that the fans might care about, but they don't care about what they're doing here. And they just not delivered well. And then they get another match going, and this guy's going to the fucking hospital. What the fuck is the matter with this program?
Again, I'm not the one to answer that, so I can't help you.
So then, here's what happens. His right ankle is obviously fucked, and he's talking to the referee, and they're trying to communicate something, and Swerve pulls him out and does like a snapmare. And Pac sits there and is looking over his shoulder, like, because Swerve does the thing where he comes off with the kick to the head. So he's looking for something like, what's this guy going to hit me with? I'll see it coming because I'm obviously fucked up. And Swerve gives him an elbow in the back of the head. And I thought, well, that'll be it. Now he'll pin him. Swerve gets up and starts strutting around. And then walks over slowly and stands on Pac. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are they not going home? Because obviously this guy knows he's fucked, or why are they doing this in this fashion? And then there's some more talking, but Pac is trying to get up. He can't stand up, so he rolls to the floor. Well, now it is obvious to the entire building and the television audience that this guy can't stand up. And he rolls out to the floor, and the doctor comes up and is checking, and the referee's not counting. What the hell is the matter? You're telling people, oh my God, I'm unplanned hurt in the middle of this fake presentation, and we don't know whether we're about to resume our goddamn normal programming. But also, for the sake of this guy's going to get further injured, he leaves the doctor and rolls back in the ring and hops on one foot twice into a super kick. which one would think maybe somebody has buzzed the referee, tell Swerve just beat him. So he walks into the, hops into the super kick and he goes down and Swerve goes the top rope. I think, my God, you just super kicked him, cover him. He goes to the top rope and Pac has to turn around and sit up and stare at this fucking guy. He's already got who knows what wrong with his ankle. And now he's got to sit there and stare at this guy while this guy takes forever to stand on the top rope and do the double stomp off. Boom, then 1, 2, 3. And it will break this down in a second what they might could have done, but the end result that they got was this gutsy heel shoved the doctor away and returned to fight on one leg so that the babyface could take advantage of it and beat a cripple. But, okay, all the kids these days, they've heard that back in those days, we didn't stop matches. And get the finish in, kid. That's the most important thing. Get the finish in, kid. But because, unfortunately, none of the current crop of talent maybe has heard in detail directly from some of those veterans said, we didn't stop the match. You got to get the finish in, kid. That it doesn't mean you have to get the planned finish in. It means you need to get a finish in. The finish them. Who's supposed to win? Who's supposed to lose? Give me a 1, 2, 3. That you can get in. But you don't. When he came down and he fucking knew his ankle was fucked, you can buy a little time by him selling in the corner and the referee coming in and him telling the referee and the referee conveying to Swerve, I'm fucked, back up. And the referee can kill a second, but backing him up and Swerve could get him chanting Swerve's house. And then the referee has a good 15 seconds to go over there and say, can you go on with this or are you fucked? And considering the fact that he never did stand up after that, I would think that Pac would probably already know that he was somewhat injured. So when Swerve brought him out of the corner and gave him a snapmare and he's sitting there, he could give him the kick in the back of the head and cover 1, 2, 3, he's going to win anyway. But he didn't. He started hot dogging. What is the conversation like in the ring? Did Pac just say, no, it's only a flesh wound? And then when he rolls to the floor, the referee has to start counting. The doctor's checking on the guy, yes, but the referee has to start counting because how do you ever have a count out if the guy can just roll to the floor and say, let me let the doctor work on me for a little while? If this was legitimate, because that's another reasoning behind always getting the finish in. You didn't want to do something to expose the business. You didn't want the wrong guy to win a match, whatever. But this was both exposing the business and risking the guy getting further hurt. When the doctor, do they want to institute a rule where if a wrestler signals something that he gets 15 seconds to confer with the ringside physician before the count starts? And close the loophole. A guy can't break up a cover or submission hold by signaling that because the opponent cannot be in contact with his body at the time he calls for it. Has to be during a break after a bad fall or whatever. You could put something like that in and give him a chance. But otherwise, referee count, it's a shoot. And it seems like that it wouldn't have been that difficult for Pac to tell Swerve, I'm fucked, beat me now. And then after he rolled out in the doctor conference, when he comes back in, hopping on one fucking foot, you just super kicked him. Cover him. But already the business is exposed because everything's come to a complete halt while suddenly in the middle of this fake bullshit, the guy's really hurt. So we got to stop everything. But that was the meaning behind in the old days, get the finish in, get a finish in. And I've told this story before, but real briefly, I saw a guy in the Louisville Gardens break his leg in a match and win the match. Tommy Gilbert and Ray Candy against Luke Graham and John Rogers. And Gilbert gave a vertical suplex to Rogers. His leg folded up underneath him. It broke his lower leg right in half. He never did get up on his feet after that. But as he's laying there and they're selling, it still was awkward, but not nearly as awkward as this for nearly as long, because the partners jumped in and drew the referee and did a little back and forth. And once the guy stopped screaming about his leg, they adopted a plan, and Luke Graham did the loaded elbow to the fucking throat of, I think it was Ray Candy, and Candy fell backwards over the guy with the broken leg, and he grabbed him 1, 2, 3 in a fucking schoolboy. And then they helped him out. But that was over in seconds compared to what this long drawn out thing was. And again, how does it make why does the babyface think in his mind, everybody knows this guy's hurt, his leg is broken or whatever the fuck, I've just super kicked him, I got to go to the top and jump off on him. It's going to look phony. It always does, but especially now, because the guy's got to fucking wiggle into position and stare at me when everybody's looking at him going, oh my God, his leg's hurt. And then I'm going to fucking, why not just take him back behind the barn and shoot him, old yeller? This was the worst 35 minutes of wrestling television in history, Brian.
In history?
In history!
That's a long period of time there. You know, there was a lot. Again, I was intrigued by the fact that nothing was ending, and then eventually it ended. You know, everyone's chasing everyone. Does Swerve see himself as a babyface, even though he is? Because, like you said, you would understand the philosophy of the babyface needing to hit his downed opponent after he's hurt to win. Like, just the whole thing didn't make any sense. But I guess he wanted to get his stuff in. He was going to get his stuff in, and he did. Whose house?
The doctors. He's added an extra wing for AEW injuries. But, you know, the doctors may be the only ones that are really coming out ahead on this thing, Brian, because even though these AEW guys are getting paid a lot of money, the toll on their bodies, the wear and tear, the surgeries, the injuries, the crises, don't you think that maybe these poor, beleaguered pro wrestlers ought to have something to fall back on whenever they're laid up in a hospital bed, some way to generate some income, some way to build a future for themselves in the business world? You think?
Oh, sure. I mean, for instance, right now, maybe PAC's setting up PAC's collectibles.
I don't know if people want any of PAC's collectibles, because all he really has is black boots, black tights, and stringy, greasy hair. But he could think of something, and that's the point. They need something to fall back on because they're falling down with so much more frequency. Because let's say, Brian, for example, that while PAC is laid up in a hospital bed, he's got an idea. He wants to sell football uniforms to the team over there in West Faversham. He needs a platform. He needs somebody to help him out to put these dreams into action and turn them into reality, and more importantly, make the big bucks. And that's where our friends at Shopify come in. Not only are they powering our t-shirt enterprise here on the program, along with Arcadian Vanguard and the Drive-Thru and the Experience, we're all over the Shop app. You can be too. Just not with our stuff. We'll hunt you down and gut you like a fish, but you can sell your own shit. Let's say he wants to do PAX Drive-Thru. I can't imagine what type of meal he would serve, but nevertheless, Shopify is the #1 checkout on the planet, a global platform that will take you from inception to conception to reception to interception in your various business stages, and upgrade your business to the same checkout the big boys do. Find your customers wherever they may be hiding around the world. And I'm telling you what, you might have penguins on an island in the Antarctic sending you whale blubber that have got to be converted into good old American currency. Shopify can help that out too.
Well, no.
And as a matter of fact, they only charge.
Let's not say things.
No, they only charge £5 on the blubber conversion.
There is no blubber conversion. This is something for some other app. But Shopify, the shop store, that's where you want to be, and Shopify is the partner you want to make sure you can sell your goods all across the Shopify world.
All over my body and all over the world with your products and your services and your fine items that Shopify is going to help you once you're under their umbrella. They will protect you from all the harm that can come to you in the world and the bad things that go on in business, because they know the right way to do things. They're experienced. And also, if anybody's messing with you like that kid down the street, they'll send a guy over. And I'll tell you, this guy's got something in his pocket that'll straighten out most arguments. Once you get them on your side, the people at Shopify, not only are you making money, but you can have the shit kicked out of some people if you want. Just let them make the wrong move.
No, you can't. You could sell your goods
I'm telling
in
you,
a secure way with a partner you could trust, Shopify. They, Shopify, the people at Shopify have nothing to do with anything else.
Well, that would maybe just something that guy from the local Shopify office did on a freelance basis for me, but he was very accommodating. Boy, you talk about after the flood, they'll never find that guy.
Again,
but anyway, folks,
has
once
nothing
again,
to do with Shopify, ladies and gentlemen. Let's specify.
No, they didn't cause the flood, and they didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. But folks, you could upgrade your business right now for $1 a month, and boy, you got to have a pretty pissy business if you could upgrade it for $1 a month. No, that's the discount on the trial period that you get at Shopify.com/JCE. That's all lowercase there. You can get a $1 a month trial period. That's right. So that Shopify can show you what they can do for you and what you can do for them. And one hand washes the other, and back scratch fever and, a little fucking wink, wink between bros in the shower. You never know what might happen.
Yeah, that won't happen, ladies and gentlemen. You know that Shopify will be there to support you and your store.
Yes, they'll support your dangling bits. Go to Shopify.com/JCE to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/JCE for all your business needs on your commercial platform in which you will engage in checkout and commerce.
Indeed. A mouthful, but what else could you expect from such a great friend like Shopify? They power our store. They could power yours. Shopify.com/JCE. Is that what it is?
You don't get the mouthful service, though, for the $1 a month trial period. They charge more for that.
Well, I don't know about any of that, but let's go back to a mindful of wrestling, AEW Dynamite.
All righty then. There was some promos for this ridiculous 8-man tag they're about to have. And Renee Moxley Good was in the back with Adam Page. He doesn't know who the wild card is. There's a wild card again. There's always a wild card. What is Tony's fascination? It's like he's goddamn hanging with the Rat Pack. His fascination with gambling. Is this an issue? Should we send him to Gamblers Anonymous or Bookers Anonymous? I went to Alcoholics Anonymous one time. It didn't work for me. I just started drinking under another name. So after he established he didn't know who the wild card was, Page burst into Swerve's locker room, but Nana was there, but Swerve wasn't there. And Page said that he wasn't helping Swerve and he needed them to stay out of his business. And Nana, the man who deserts his friends, tried to stand up and say, hey, I can't speak for Swerve, but I regret that we did. But Page cut him off and wouldn't listen to him because he's the hot-headed millennial cowboy. So now, apparently, from what Uncle Dave thinks, they're trying to build up where Page and Swerve will become a tag team. Boy, the folks have been clamoring for that. They've got so much in common. Similar gimmicks and backgrounds.
Well, is that a good match for Texas Stadium or whatever the hell it is? Swerve and Adam Page versus the Bucks? So Adam Page could be conflicted again. He doesn't know who to help. He doesn't know what side he's on.
I think it's as good as they're going to get, is my answer. As good as they're going to get. So then they had an 8-man tag match. Ricochet, Action Andretti, Leo Rush, and Frank Mortis against Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight, Mark Briscoe, and Hong Kong Phooey. And the The reason why this match was meaningful is because the winning team allegedly would win $400,000, Brian. Did you hear this announcement?
Yeah, that was like the big pitch of the match, that these guys are really motivated because of the $400,000 victory purse.
What fucking sense did they used to laugh at the AWA $50,000 battle royals back in the day, but this it brings a whole new. You've got Ricochet, who again in their presentation should be viewed as one of their top heels, and he's with Andretti, Leo Rush, and Mortis, just undercard talent. Osprey, who should be their next world champion, sooner the better, in my opinion, but it'll probably happen in Texas, is teaming with, okay, Mark Briscoe. We've established they haven't put him at that level, even though he's the best talent on this team. Kevin Knight, we've seen him 3 or 4 times. And Hong Kong Phooey, to any adult watching, makes the babyface team look silly to begin with, just visually, just being there. Just the ridiculousness of this fucking nerd. And then and we're going to have an 8-man tag amongst people that means nothing and put a couple of our stars in it, and the winning team wins $400,000. Imagine showing this to people who haven't seen wrestling in 20 years, and they wake up from the coma and they say, "Boy, I've missed wrestling. Can I watch some wrestling?" And you show them this, they go, "What the fuck? Who are these children?" And surprise, the baby faces won $400,000. Your thoughts on the subtleties of this contest?
No, I really have nothing to add to the $400,000 review.
Well, they did a video recap of FTR turning on Edge. Edge is out indefinitely again. He just got back, didn't he? He's out indefinitely. Tony Schiavone did an editorial on how disappointed that everybody is in FTR. Lance Russell did it better. Let's just say that. Then, usually this is the segment. If we're going to get something worth anything, we're going to get it here. Here came the Hurt Syndicate to the ring, and the celebration was set up. They got the belt stand, and they got the table with the champagne and the poster of their victory. And the fans were chanting MVP. And, MVP made the announcement that punks jump up to get beat down. And that's what old Big Bill and Brian Keith were. And they're going to have a toast to celebrate another win of their championship. And of course, this is a somewhat flimsy, see-through excuse for MJF to come out, but he does. And they've got a little bit of the old days back with this. I like the interplay. MJF comes into the ring and poses next to Shelton like he's in the fucking group. And Shelton's kind of looking at him sideways like, what the fuck? And the fans are chanting, "He's our scumbag" again. Brian, they are caught in a vicious logic vacuum where the only time that the people like MJF and chant for him is when he is a heel, preferably a despicable heel, or lined with other heels that they also like and cheer for. But if he becomes a babyface, and it kills him deader than fucking 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So MJF says, "That's right, we hurt people, baby." And he cuts the promo about how Tony wanted him to be in this fakakta Owen Hart tournament and wrestle every week and sweat my balls off like some schlub. But I can bypass that because now that I'm rolling with the Syndicate, Daddy gets to cut the line and get back the Triple B, baby. Here's another thing. I got to be fair. And I enjoyed, is the point I was going to make here. I enjoyed MJF's banter here because he was back being the smart ass again. He wasn't trying so hard. He wasn't yelling at the people to make them not like him. But then I said it earlier, so I will be fair and apply it here too. I said, after 6 months, why does any potential new viewer understand why those two despicable weasels, the buckaroos, are the executive vice presidents? What is the triple B? I keep saying there's too many of them in the group. MJF is the only one calling it the triple B now, and he doesn't explain it. The announcers don't call it that. For a new potential viewer, MJF has not been the champion for over a year. Would they know what the triple B is? Would it have more impact if not only MJF just dropped that in, that beautiful AEW World Championship belt that I redesigned and christened the every once in a while, so everybody's up on what the fuck he's talking about? Or is this another case of the Bill Watts thing where he'd send out a memo, gentlemen, I know you're all superstars and all the fans know everything, but see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but we haven't even seen the title in almost a year, so
who knows what it looks like? And Moxley does not look like a fastidious housekeeper. But what was the triple B?
That was his belt.
Well, it was but what did it stand for? It was the Burberry blowjob
what was it?
Belt. I don't know. See?
Big Burberry belt or brown
something
Burberry
like that.
Belt?
This is why that it needs reinforcement. But anyway, then MJF said, I scratched your back and now you guys scratch mine. You know, MVP Montel, do I have to sign a contract or is it one of those old school blood brother type of deals? And Lashley says, shut up, Max. And, you know, it was cute that you tried to help us, but you didn't get the job done. We don't need you. And we've never needed you. And then Bobby and MJF start arguing and pointing fingers with each other. And Shelton's kind of smiling there, but he stepped in between and MVP tried to calm Lashley down. And MVP told MJF, hey, we go way back. But to join, you need 3 thumbs up. And MVP gave him the thumb up, and then Shelton stuck it out in the middle and then turned it down. And Lashley, thank you. Thank you. I like that he hugged Shelton. He's like, thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. And they took the belts and they left the ring, and MVP just shrugs at MJF, right? What are you going to do? So we still don't, but again, I like this, and it'll help MJF instead of having to go out there and just scream at people all the time because he's being penalized because he's still one of the better speakers in the company, but nobody cares about any of his shit before. But that was that.
Yeah, I really like that. I've liked everything with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate so far. I think it's bringing out the best of Bobby Lashley. We're actually getting to see some fire in promos and stuff. And Shelton standing there bemused by the whole thing. MJF should show up dressed like them. Like wearing like a really nice 3-piece suit just to fit in a little more. But I've enjoyed all of this a lot.
Well, and then I'll jump ahead because to keep the continuity going, which is more than I can say for this program. Later on, they were in the back with Alicia Atut with the Hurts, and Lashley was telling, you know, MVP and everybody, hey, MJF can't be trusted. We don't like him. We don't need him. And Shelton's like, yeah, but little George Costanza's kind of funny. And then, but again, a lot of these wrestlers are nearsighted apparently these days because Shelton and Bobby, under some flimsy pretense, they leave the promo and within 5 seconds there's a knock at the door and MJF comes in. And MJF's asking MVP, do I look like a female dog to you? Why do they treat me like a punk bitch? And this was good with MVP. Your reputation precedes you. That's why. But this is business. In business, find out what your consumer wants and give it to him. And then he walks out and leaves MJF there to ponder that word of wisdom. So there's still something going on here. So at least we don't have to watch him interact with other people. Anyway, they had Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander in the Owen Hart Tournament female division. I'm sure Owen would be pleased. And then we got to the Chris Jericho segment. And Brian, have you heard that apparently old Chris Jericho is taking some time off? It may be time for a break just to make sure that his gimmick isn't getting worn out. What the we'll talk about a couple different things, but the idea that he was the Ring of Honor champion, even though he was the antithesis of everything that the Ring of Honor fan base, big, small, good, bad, or indifferent, would have ever looked for in the Ring of Honor world champion, was because since he had a name, Tony was shopping a TV deal for Ring of Honor, right? That was the reasoning, that he's a big name and it would help get a TV deal. Well, he just lost the Ring of Honor belt and now he's taking time off. I think that sounds like it's bad news for the Ring of Honor TV deal. And didn't Tony Khan already said he's not gonna do business with somebody outside the WBD umbrella? So what did he think, that they were going to put another show of his, Ring of Honor, on one of their networks when the numbers for what he had were dropping? You're broke up over the Ring of Honor world title situation, aren't you?
I can't explain Tony's
Your head. There's little Tweety birds just wandering like me, just circling around your head. What is happening here?
I don't think there's anyone who was involved in Ring of Honor in the previous, in any of the previous owners, under any of the previous owners, or anyone who followed it who thinks Tony's doing a good job with it or has any idea what he's doing with it.
Well, Jericho was in the ring for this one, and it was the TV time with the learning tree set, and he's got the trees and he's got the monitor. And I haven't enjoyed watching Jericho come out since he dropped Judas. At least we could hear the song. I'm becoming irrelevant in the ring. So Jericho was kind of morose that he lost the Ring of Honor title, but he was, unfortunately penalized by the assistance of the stooge mother of Bandito. And he has his family, but I have mine, and I want to bring my family out right now. And he introduced Big Bill and Brian Keith. And Jericho starts prefacing by saying, well, you guys didn't win the tag team title either, and Big Bill shut him up. And Brian, you saw this interview, right? Did you pay any attention, or did it could just kind of fly by you like a lot of the Jericho
stuff?
No,
I watched this. I wanted to see if this was going to be the big turn for Big Bill and Brian Keith, where they'd become baby faces sick of Chris Jericho. And for a minute, I thought it may happen.
Well, thankfully it didn't, because if they never replay any of this again, Big Bill should find all the copies of the tape and burn it. Big Bill is, if this was his effort to try to do a breakthrough promo, he had the material here, he had the potential passion behind it, he had the reasoning for it. There was he memorized this and he recited it. He was neither comfortable nor was there any kind of delivery. He was trying to speak like a college professor and enunciate everything, talking like a robot. No emotion, no inflection, no cadence. But if we are out here so you can berate us, then let me know right now and I can leave. That even said, I've been getting real angry as of late. This 7-foot fucking long-haired goddamn giant Greg Allman looking motherfucker, whatever. He wouldn't speak like that. He sounds like Kenny. Sounds like a fucking soft putz. And he did this interview instead of telling Jericho we're sick and tired of this shit, he was polite to him. Instead of saying, we're not going to be browbeaten by you anymore, he's like, well, we'll just leave if we have to stand here and take this abuse. It's like, this is the fucking 7-foot ass kicker. Looking at it in that perspective, did this or did this not suck donkey balls?
No, this was not good. I didn't say it was good.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think it was a breakthrough performance or anything. But then Jericho calmly said, "That's not why I brought you out here. I care about you. I want to help you. Your victories are mine and your failures are mine." And then he starts working himself up. And of course, he says, "Some may say that I lost the Ring of Honor World title because, Big Bill, you weren't there for me. Some might even say it's your fault. But I'm not saying that. I'm not angry." And now Jericho's auditioning for the next independent movie here with this emotional roller coaster of a scene. "I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed." And that's what he repeats then over and over. "I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed," while he's smashing the TV with the baseball bat. You know, these new flat screens that are only like an inch thick, they don't really fucking break and bust up like those old fashioned TVs did. It just kind of
It takes effort.
crinkles up and just, it doesn't really go anywhere. There's nothing inside it to fly out of it. But nevertheless, he beat the TV up with the bat, and he really got a pop when he got bleeped for something. And then he told him that until you change that me being disappointed, it might be best that I leave. And the fans, of course, start singing "Sha-na-na-na, hey, 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 goodbye," from the great group Sha-na-na. And did you hear as Jericho was leaving, as he's going down the aisleway right at the entranceway? You can clear as day hear some fan go, "Suck on a maple leaf, buddy."
What a goodbye.
So yeah, but that was that. A comment on that, and then what are we hearing about this interview Jericho's doing where he's saying he's open to returning to the WWE?
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's very open to it. We'll see where it goes. You know, Jericho's been there a long time. Jericho has had more opportunity to do more of his own stuff than most people. Tony's a big Chris Jericho fan going back to his teenage years. You would think in some ways Chris Jericho may be set for life in AEW, even though the work is not there. The angles, the promos, the ideas, the programs, everything from like A to Z has been pretty shitty from him, including guys that he did not help, who never really gained anything from working with Chris Jericho. It just kept Chris Jericho in a prominent position on TV.
Come on, Action Andretti is the new Sting.
Would WWE want him for any reason at this point right now other than to just take AEW's first world champion and someone who was such a big part of AEW?
Well, but hold on here, because he did an interview, and this was with one of the wrestling entity publications or sites or whatever, right? But he said he would be willing to go back to the WWE, or he'd be happy staying in AEW. Basically, it's the cover all bases and answer everything. He was giving I would evaluate any offer at any situation and do what's best for me. That's why I've reinvented myself so much. So he's basically saying, I'll do anything that ends up the best thing for me to do. But didn't he just announce a couple of years ago, because we were talking about it and laughing about it, that he signed a 10-year contract? Not only he, but Tony announced, signed a 10-year contract, because we were laughing. He'll be 62. So unless Tony was to let him out of that contract, which at some point he may very well want to, then he wouldn't be able to go back to the WWE. When he's 62 years old, he might get inducted in the Hall of Fame. That will come to a point somewhere down the road. But right now, I would have to think that there would probably be, unless the personal aspect comes into it, all things being equal, I don't know how he left him or what the relationship is. But if I was the WWE, I'd say if we can get Chris Jericho to do 5 matches in the next couple of years, it would be a pay-per-view, WrestleMania, whatever. Might be worth doing something of a reasonable amount of money and merchandise and etc. And some television appearances where he wasn't wrestling. But I think just for the nostalgia value, I don't know at this point. Punk is a nostalgia run almost at this point, and he's 10 years younger than Jericho. So would they want to put Jericho in a position where the people would see through it because he's wrestling even once or twice a month? I think it would have to be a limited thing. If it was interest on their part, they wouldn't start building a regular talent, and regular now being once or twice a week. They wouldn't start building Jericho at this age as a regular talent for a 2 or 3 year contract. I can't see that.
Well, we'll follow this story and see what happens, and if there's anything more to say, we'll say it on the drive-thru, but it certainly didn't leave Big Bill and Brian Keith looking like anything.
Oh, it left them looking like something. I've seen a lot of what it left them looking like in the middle of the road after the parade goes by. But speaking of the parade going by, do you know who the parade left, Brian? The parade left the main event behind for us to enjoy. The main event on this program, where bad promos and nonsensical bullshit and people injured and chaos running rampant. The main event was Claudio Castagnoli and our friend Wheeler Useless. And I didn't even like him here, and he's from Philadelphia, against Samoa Joe and Hook. And they've made it at this point where I don't even want to see Samoa Joe. But this, again, they rang the bell at 6 minutes till 10, so you know they're going over, even though that the Swerve and Pac match was cut, I'm sure, fairly short from what it was going to be. They still managed to find a way to stretch this fucking fiasco out, right? So, point is, they go past the 10 o'clock hour into the overrun. And then finally, Joe and Claudio are on the floor, and Wheeler and Hook are in the ring. And Moxley comes down and grabs a chair. Well, he gets up on the apron of the ring and draws the referee. Then he gets down, and then he paces around for a little while. Did you see? It was like, did he come too early for something? What? He was just there, and he distracted people, but then he backed off. Then he grabbed a chair. Then Shapoopy came down and grabbed Moxley in a sleeper, and Joe got Claudio in a choke on the floor. They were outside the ring, and then Hook got Wheeler in the choke, the red rum, and Wheeler tapped out because that's his function in that group. But then Marina Schaefer comes in and starts getting on everybody, and the heels get back up and beat up the baby faces. And at this point, and I didn't even see this went around on Twitter the day after. I didn't see it when it happened because they had a wide shot on the ring, but if you're looking for it, you can see it. If you're not looking for it, you can't see it. But apparently, as they're getting heat on the baby faces before Samoa Joe comes in with a chair and runs the heels off, Hook was down selling, and he puked. He threw up chunks in the ring right before Claudio picked him up and did the spot where they picked him up and dropped him stomach first on the folding chair. So what was he, because they didn't go long enough for a kid like him to be blown up. Did he take some kind of stomach blow, or was there some reason for him to be vomiting before they did that deal? That's what I'm wondering.
Maybe he realized what the ratings would be being in the main event with Claudio.
Come on now.
I don't know. I didn't see what caused it. I didn't even notice it until after the fact, and people on social media started sending it around. I didn't see it happen.
But then that begs the question. I wasn't even there, but that begs the question. Claudio's right next to him. He's about to pick him up and do the spot where he picks him up and drops him gut first on a folding chair, on the edge of the chair. So did he say, hey, can you hurry up and finish puking and come here so I can drop your stomach on the edge of a chair? Did they have to do that thing because they called it in the locker room? Or could he have said, well, you know, this guy's already throwing up. Maybe I'll just fucking kick him in the head and let him take his own bump. What is the matter with all these people?
Maybe he didn't see the throw up. He just smelled it. And when he smelled it, he thought, oh, someone's wearing Moxley's cologne.
No, that's not Moxley's, the seat or the lap of Moxley's pants that smells like that. It was 5 feet away from Claudio. He had to look at it to pick the guy up. But it's like all of them have not ever been talked to in any kind of meaningful way in training, otherwise in a superficial, the show must go on and, gut through this stuff instead of, no, we can do something different because nobody knows what we're supposed to be doing to begin with till we do it. But yeah, so then Joe ran everybody off with the chair and the fans were, And Joe cut a promo like they're coming after and I mean, I can believe it from Joe, but he's got a skinny kid laying in his own puke and fucking Shapoopy as his backup, and they're coming after the Death Riders. And the only thing that Joe really got a pop for was something he said that he got bleeped for. So that was that program. AEW.
Another AEW Dynamite. Of course, they're on a real hot string of exciting action. We could talk about the ratings. I have them here. AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025 from 8 to 10:08 p.m. On average, watched by 659,000 viewers.
659,000. Now that is firmly in their wheelhouse or their flywheel or whatever, as they say these days. They're in the sixes now, usually 6 to 660 or so.
Well, for instance, last week was 594. So this is up 11% from that, according to WrestleNomics. The trailing 4-week average, 636. So 4% up on that.
So they're a little bit better than their weakest average ever. Okay.
Well, let's go to the quarterly breakdown. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. It does not include Max. And by the way, I've heard from multiple people who work in television who told me the streaming numbers of 500,000 being added to Dynamite is hogwash. Not one of them thinks it could be anywhere near that, and we would certainly know about it if it was. But let's go to the quarterly breakdown. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., the Jon Moxley backstage promo, the Moxley versus Shibata match, and the Young Bucks coming out for their promo, 767,000 viewers.
Okay, so it looks like they may keep some people for most of this show with that starting point and their average.
Well, quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Okada, Swerve Strickland, Pac Live angle. That's a way to put it. An ad break, and the start of Pac versus Swerve Strickland, 698,000 viewers.
Okay, I got to be honest with you. That's exceptional because they only lost 69,000 people after 15 minutes of that opening drivel that we were subjected to. That's a gift right there. I applaud them for that accomplishment.
We go now to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m.
The dribble continues.
The continuation of Pac versus Strickland. Ricochet and Crew and Beast Mordos and Will Ospreay and Mark Briscoe and Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey backstage angle. An ad break. The Billy Starks, Mercedes Moné, Harley Cameron backstage angle. I missed that. And the Adam Page, Prince Nana backstage angle, followed by an ad break. 629,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, that shows the culmination of that first 30 minutes of abysmal misery. Now they're down 138,000.
Well, we got a quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Kevin Knight, Mark Briscoe, Mike Bailey, and Will Ospreay versus Crew and Ricochet and Beast Mortos with picture-in-picture 604,000 viewers.
Wow, and it keeps going. Now they got to jump up here again to get to their average, I would think, here pretty soon. So they're at the top of the hour. Did they get a big pickup?
Well, we were at the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The finish of the aforementioned 8-man tag match. MJF and the Hurt Syndicate's live angle. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford's backstage promo. And an ad break. 688,000 viewers.
Holy shit, that is the biggest jump they've had at the top of the hour in my memory that I can recall since we've been doing this. They never pick up 84,000 people.
Well, we go now to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Thunder Rosa versus Chris Statlander with picture-in-picture. You did not review that match.
Yeah.
692,000 viewers.
It picked up 4,000 people. Okay, now something's happening here in hour 2. They're setting the world on fire.
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The finish of Rosa versus Statlander. Don Callis' backstage promo. The Paragon backstage promo. What the fuck's the Paragon?
I don't know. I was zoning out at that point.
The Learning Tree live promo. And Anthony Bowens' promo. 670,000 viewers.
This is an odd show because they have now, except for their strong open, quarter 2 and 3 were 698 and 629. Quarter 6 and 7 are 692 and 670. They never do better in the second hour than they do in the first. It has never happened, yet here they are. What a wonderful time to be alive.
Well, we go to quarter 8, and I remind you, we have an 8-minute overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m. The Hurt Syndicate MJF backstage angle. That's when MJF walked into the room after they left.
Yeah.
An ad break. The Chris Jericho Learning Tree angle. And the start of the Death Riders versus the Ops. With picture-in-picture. 576,000 viewers. 8-minute overrun, more Ops versus Death. 568,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay. So the people finally said at this point, we know what's going to be on the rest of the show. So they lost 102,000 people from quarter 7 to the overrun. But bravo on them for somehow getting people to watch the second hour of their show for the first time in history.
It's well over the 90-day trend line, as you've been pointing out here without seeing the graph. It's well above it for that second hour, so something happened. Either that, or MJF and the Hurt Syndicate stuff is getting some interest, which I could see, and Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander asked every relative they have to please watch the 9 o'clock hour. We'll be on at some point. I really don't
Statlander brought the Alpha Centauri audience into it.
No, Andromeda.
That's a much bigger. I thought she was from Alpha Centauri. No, that's where they were going on Lost in Space.
Yeah, she's from the Andromeda Galaxy.
Yeah, well, that's an even bigger galaxy. So there's a lot of people there.
I believe it's in Suffolk County. But that was AEW Dynamite's ratings.